Don't get arrested. Cannabis is legalish. 5 stupid laws that can still land you in jail. You bought it legally. You smoked it legally, or so you thought. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on 5 cannabis gotchas that turn regular folks into accidental criminals. I'm Tom Howard, a cannabis industry lawyer, not a criminal defense attorney who keeps people out of jail, but I specialize in cannabis business law like licensing and disputes. Anyway, today we're going to talk about criminal laws by breaking down the top 5 cannabis laws that everyone seems to break even after it's been legalized, sometimes without even realizing it. And I'm not talking about some shady black market operation trapping spray packs. I'm talking about soccer moms, business owners, accountants, and let's be honest, probably you, or at least somebody you know, once or twice. Here's the hard truth: legalization is not a get out of jail free card. If you're walking around right now thinking it's legal, what's the worst that could happen? Congratulations. You just volunteered as tribute to the Hunger Games of cannabis law. Even in legal states, the rules are about as clear and the penalties, they're still very real. So let's get you off the free lunch menu for the criminal justice system, shall we? Now, law number one: public consumption, AKA, but it's legal. Now, most people, they think that once it's been legalized, just smoke anywhere, right? No, let's start with the single most common screw up: lighting up in public. You just bought some beautiful flower, the sun is shining, and you're feeling like Snoop Dogg on vacation. You step outside and spark it up and cue the sirens. The reality in almost every legal state, public consumption is still illegal. It's the same with alcohol. You just can't walk down the road drinking a beer unless you're in New Orleans. And the definition of public is, let's say, creatively broad. How ridiculously broad? Public can be your own front porch. Public can be your driveway, visible from the street. That could also be public. It's legal insanity. And look, you've bought weed, and it's kind of like buying a bottle of Jack Daniels. The government is totally fine with you owning it. They just don't want to see you shotgunning it in the middle of a Little League game like you're Randy Marsh. You can possess it, but if you light up in the wrong place, you're fair game for law enforcement, your local Karen, or whatever nosy neighbor happens to be walking their Pomeranian. Here's the thing most people miss: public places doesn't just mean parks or sidewalk, it is the steps to your apartment, your building's parking lot, the hotel balcony, and my favorite, federal land. Yes, if you light up at Yellowstone, you just made yourself a federal case. Good luck arguing with that park ranger. Those guys will write you a ticket for walking off the trail to look at wildlife. And let's not forget vehicles. Parked or not, you're in public. That's public consumption, even if you're trying to be discreet in your car. The second the cop walks by and gets a whiff, you might as well have hung an air freshener that says, "Please give me a citation." Penalties at best, you're looking at a fine, maybe roughly equivalent to a nice dinner. At worst, you might be looking at misdemeanor charges, especially if you are a repeat offender or if you happen to light up anywhere near a school, playground, government building, any other sensitive locations. Or if you're on parole or probation, so congratulations, you just gave your PO a reason to call your mom. Want to stay legal? Pretty simple. Use cannabis only on private property and only if that property's owner is cool with it. Some states are finally getting on board and opening consumption lounges. They're basically like Amsterdam style coffee shops. Right now, they're still about as rare as a rational law in Texas, and only a few markets have them. And if you're traveling, always look up those local rules. Some states, or California, Nevada, Illinois, can have them. There's very few of them. So, when in doubt, just go home and spark up there or vape. It's just way more inconspicuous. Law number two: driving under the influence. The "I'm a better driver" high fantasy. Be real. Cannabis doesn't turn anyone into Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights. I don't care where my hands are when I say that. And I don't care what you say. You're not a better driver when you're stoned. If anything, you're more likely to spend 20 minutes deciding which gas station snack is calling your name or just parked. But still, states treat cannabis DUIs as seriously as alcohol DUIs, sometimes even more so, because it makes for great headlines. Now, unlike booze, there's no breathalyzer that tells the cops you're over a limit. Some states actually have tried per se limits of, like, for example, 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood. But there's very little science behind that. So you get more accuracy from shaking a magic 8 ball and having it come up, say you get a DUI. They really can't prove that you're impaired like they can with alcohol. So what do they have to do? They have to go back to the test that they had for alcohol before they had the breathalyzer. with test designs for drunks. The field sobriety test that they designed to make anyone look guilty. First, they look for the usual erratic driving, slow reaction times, or the aroma of skunk rolling out of your windows with puffs of smoke. Then they'll hit you with the classic field sobriety test, walking the straight line while touching your nose and reciting the alphabet backwards, because anybody can do that. So don't admit that you've had an edible or smoked before driving, and good luck on those field sobriety tests. Cannabis DUI can wreck your life. An arrest, suspended license, thousands of dollars in fine, paying a criminal lawyer, mandatory drug classes that Sam likes, and in some places, actual jail time, especially if you have a crash, hurt someone, or have a prior record. Your insurance company will send you a nice letter that says, "Thank you for being a customer. Now please pay triple forever." How do you avoid this nightmare? Again, it's pretty easy. Don't drive high. If you're going to indulge, make like your college roommate and just hang out on the couch for a while. The effects of edibles last for much longer than you think. Of course, there is tolerance trade-offs depending on how much you use. If you're inexperienced and quite overserved, just play it safe and hang out, watch The Big Lebowski. And the reason why you want to play it conservative is because you can test positive for cannabis weeks after using it. It is really unfair. So don't get cocky if you're a medical patient and you think having a medical card is like your get out of jail free card for impaired driving. If you're behind the wheel and not fully sober, you're going to be breaking the law. It's that simple. Let's say you smoked last Tuesday, you could still get a DUI today in most states. They don't test if you are high now, just if the metabolites are in your system. We have to work on changing those laws. Moving on to law number 3, crossing state lines, the federal boogeyman. Let's get to the one people screw up all the time because they think it's legal over in Michigan and cheaper. So what's the big deal? Well, crossing state lines with cannabis is a federal crime. The federal government still has authority over interstate commerce in cannabis, and that's why it's a Schedule 1 drug. The second you cross that state border, you're under federal jurisdiction. And cannabis, again, Schedule 1 controlled substance. That means it's right up there with heroin, but, you know, for no good reason. It just always has been. We're still waiting on Schedule 3. Good luck with that, Trump administration. Even if you're driving from one of the legal states to another legal state with a small Indiana gap in between it, they see that as federally legal border crossing with products. And some states, for example, Ohio, is trying to make that illegal. So you can't go to Michigan and then bring in their product and say it's legal. Had to have bought in Ohio. Of course, the DEA does not have the time or resources to chase down every Prius that has crossed from Nevada into California. But if you get pulled over for something else like speeding, broken taillight, driving after you left a Fish concert, and they find cannabis in your car, congratulations. You went from a routine traffic stop to potential federal defendant. Same goes for flying. TSA's official stance is that they're not actively searching for your weed, but if they find it, they may hand it over to local law enforcement. Hopefully they just throw it away. And if you're in an airport in a non-legal state, now you're a cautionary tale of the next episode of Locked Up Abroad. So don't be that person on the news when we cover it on Sundays. It's really not worth it. Even a small amount can trigger asset forfeiture. Yeah, that means they can legally take your car and your other shit. Try explaining that one to your insurance agent or the buddy who you borrowed the car from. For large amounts, you're looking at real prison time. And unless your bucket list includes federal court and maybe also federal prison, leave your stash at home. Bottom line, consume where you buy and finish it before you travel. Or leave it there and finish it when you get back from travel. If you have to cross state lines, your safest bet is to pretend that you're back in 2000. Stashless and slightly paranoid. Remember, legal is a state level thing. Federal law, the elephant in the room, is still illegal. And that elephant has a pretty long memory. Moving on to number 4, possession limits, unintentional trafficking. Now that is weird. Let's talk about this. Some people like to call it the Costco error. You can go over the line. Yeah, let's say it's legal in your state, but only up to a point. Every state has a limit. In California, I think it's 28 and a half grams, probably more. The states do change them and they've gone up. I believe Michigan's up to like 2.5 ounces. Now, in California, it's 28.5 grams in concentrate. In Illinois here, it's a little different. We don't have like an ounce, we say 30 grams. And if you think those numbers are guidelines, not rules, you may have a fun conversation with a judge about how it was really hemp. Give them the hemp defense, see how it goes. It gets better. Let's say you have three friends and you each have the legal limit in the same car and you're pulled over. To you, it looks like fun road trip, having a great time, just coming back from the dispensary. To the cop, it looks like a rolling dispensary, especially if there's any scales, baggies, cash, or anything else that makes it look like you have the intent to distribute, because the cops will stack that evidence and say that you intend to distribute. The amounts can be quite shockingly low, and you might be staring at a felony in a blink of an eye, even though it's a legal state. You're over your limits. So don't carry around more than the law allows. And unfortunately, you also have to keep it in the original packaging from the dispensary. Those stickers and labels, they're your best friend in a traffic stop. They say, like, hey, this stuff hasn't been opened yet. I wasn't just buying this for some gas station. And of course, make sure that you avoid anything that makes it look like you're selling, even if you're not selling, scales, wads of cash. I'm not sure why you would have scales. Maybe you want to make sure that the eighth that you bought is really an eighth. I don't know. Individually bagged products, all of these might be red flags. And if you carry them around, just make sure that they're out of reach of you, far away from where you operate the vehicle, perhaps even locked in your trunk. Keep everything organized. If you're not sure what your limit is in your state, I don't blame you. Google it before you head out, because I don't know is not a defense that's ever worked in the law. If anything, it just buys you more time to do some research and file a brief. Law number 5, the gifting gray area. Buy this sticker, get a free eighth. Let's talk about gifting. This is a loophole that applies in some states, not all, and really does not apply when you like, oh, I bought a sticker or a t-shirt and it came with an eighth. The idea goes like this. I'm not selling you weed. I'm selling you this $80 collared shirt. And a totally unrelated gift is an eighth of OG Kush. That's not sketchy. Courts are not that stupid. If the gift is contingent on you buying something else, that is a sale. You can call it a donation, a contribution, supporting the arts, whatever you want to call it. It's still a transaction for cannabis, and it's going to be found to be illegal unless you're licensed to sell it. I promise you, Your Honor, but it was a gift. It was a gift, Your Honor. That's not going to work. You can try that. Your lawyer might fire you while you do. It's never a closing argument that I'd want to ever deliver, and it isn't because I'm not a criminal lawyer. But, Your Honor, it was a gift is not a closing argument that I'd look for one to deliver. The judges have heard all this crap before, and the regulators, they are coming for your unlicensed pop-up just as soon as they're done with their lunch break and have more budgetary authority to enforce violations of the laws. If you're the seller, you risk criminal charges, tax evasion perhaps, and loss of whatever business assets that you have. However, if you're a buyer, you could wind up with a product that hasn't been tested, isn't safe, might land you in legal hot water if you get caught in the act, even if you try the hemp defense. Real gifting, no strings attached, that type of happy birthday, you have an eighth for my personal stash. That may usually be fine as long as you're within the state's possession limits. Plus, your state also has to allow gifting. Some states don't allow gifting. And if there's any money changing hands, or if you're getting cannabis with every purchase of a sticker, coffee mug, or concert tickets, you're kind of playing with fire. And that's not the fun kind of fun. The golden rule is if it looks like a sale, smells like a sale, and involves money, the law will probably treat it like a sale. So don't be the person who learns this the hard way. And now let's recap the 5 ways regular people end up on the wrong side of cannabis law, often without realizing it, even if it's legal in their state. Public consumption. You just can't light up anywhere, no matter how cool the mural behind you looks on Instagram. Cannabis DUI. Impairment is impairment. If you're high, don't drive. Uber exists for a reason. Exploiting their workers. Crossing state lines. State legalization doesn't trump federal prohibition. What happens in Colorado stays in Colorado. Don't take it to Kansas. Possession limits. Don't turn your glove box into a dispensary. Know your state's limits and don't give cops a reason to go with intent to distribute. Gifting gray areas. Free weed with an overpriced t-shirt is not a business plan. It's an indictment that's just not happened yet. The big takeaway is that legalization is not a license to be reckless. It's more like an invitation to read the fine print. State laws, local ordinances, and federal statutes, actually, they all overlap, though. and they're like a bad family reunion, and ignorance will not save you. If you are unsure about something, take 5 seconds to look it up on ChatGPT, or better yet, talk to a real lawyer. Of course, none of this is legal advice. Laws change all the time, and the only constant about cannabis law is how inconsistently and incoherently it is enforced. If you get in trouble, find a qualified cannabis criminal attorney who actually reads the laws and not just memes. What's the most confusing cannabis law you've run into? Drop it in the comments below. And if you're running a business and you want to do things the right way, licensing compliance, not go to prison, that kind of great stuff, head on over to cannabisindustrylawyer.com and let's get you sorted out. Don't forget to subscribe for more plain spoken calling out the dumbest laws on cannabis in America. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Howard, reminding you to stay legal, stay safe, and remember, ignorance of the law is no defense unless you're a politician.